Welcome everybody. My name is Chris. I think I've already talked to some of you in the previous session. I am one of the counsellors here at Flinders Uni. I'm based here at Oasis, this wellbeing centre that you're sitting in. My office is just across the road here. And today's session is about this program, Mindfulness for Academic Success. So for 20 minutes we are going to talk a bit about what this program is about, what mindfulness is, and we're going to do a little mindfulness exercise as well. If you have any questions at any point, please just put your hand up and we'll make it interactive and we'll answer all your questions, I hope. Before we go any further, I'd just love to acknowledge the Ghana people and pay my respects and thank them for their custodianship of this beautiful land that we get to meet and study on. Okay, so this is a 5-week program. We'll be running probably 6 or 7 of these throughout the year. So it'll be myself and another counselling colleague. We have about 15, usually about 15 students in a room. We can have more. We usually meet in this room here. And the first one will be starting March 18, 9:30 to 10:30. It's might be a bit early for some people, hopefully. I know that some people have said it is a bit early, but I'm trying to make it at a time when it won't clash with classes. Okay, so we're going to learn about what mindfulness is and what it is not, and how it can be a helpful skill for study. We're going to identify when you are already mindful, because we are definitely, in times in our life, we are quite present. We'll do a little brief practice and we'll also debrief. And thank you for signing the sign-in sheet, especially if it's the second time. And there will be a third one too if you're staying for all 3 information sessions. Get ready for that. So, you don't need to be an expert in mindfulness or meditation to join this program. If you're a complete beginner, that is totally fine. Who is totally new to this? Never heard of it? Yeah. I know a bit. Anyone? I know a lot. Who's in that camp? Oh, excellent. Okay, fantastic. It doesn't really matter where you are. Any place is a good place to start when it comes to learning about mindfulness and present moment. And one thing that we really encourage in the program, and what I encourage you today as well, is to have something of what we call a beginner's mind. And even if you do have some knowledge about this, or if you have a bit of an idea, or you've seen the stereotypes, or you think this is all about hippies walking around hugging trees and it's all woo-woo kind of stuff, try and put that aside for a second and have a beginner's mind. Welcome, grab a seat. And the benefits of having a beginner's mind about anything in this world is that it puts the brain into a new mode and it opens you up to take in new information. So a useful place to start with mindfulness is to talk about what mindfulness is not. The total opposite of mindfulness essentially is default mode. And this is that part of our brain that is essentially our automatic pilot, which is useful in some cases. Has anyone here ever got home and put their keys down and then 5 minutes later got no idea where they put them? Anyone? Okay. Has anyone ever sat down to start doing something really important and then 5 minutes later they find themselves scrolling on their phone for no apparent reason? Yeah, that's me too. Has anyone driven from A to B or been on a bus and you get to your destination and you wonder, how the hell did I get here? So that's the two arms. This is the default mode. This is where our brain just goes onto that automatic pilot, and it kind of it's not either a good or a bad thing, but when we are in that place a bit too much, our mind can kind of wander to places that aren't that great. we can dwell on the past, we can worry about the future. I'll just tell you a very quick story about evolution in the brain, because 100,000 years ago, when our brains were first being developed, there was a lot of dangers in our environment. There were saber-toothed tigers running around, we had predators, we had rival clans that were trying to kill us. There was extreme weather events. So our ancestors were the ones that were really pretty anxious actually, and really managed to stay alive by trying to work out how little Johnny got eaten by the tiger yesterday and how are we going to stay safe tomorrow. So the ones that were sort of pretty relaxed and chilled and were skipping through the daisies without a worry in the world, they're the ones that got eaten, and our ancestors were the ones in the cave, sort of a bit worried and working out how are we going to stay alive. So if we fast forward now to 2025, we still have these same brains, and the dangers have kind of gone, especially here in Adelaide. It's a pretty safe place, but our mind is still trained to monitor our environment for potential danger. But instead of thinking about all those really big dangers, our mind might think about what do people think about me, or think about how we did really badly in that test 2 weeks ago and how we're going to fail this exam coming up in 3 weeks. So a lot of self-judgment and negative thinking. So our brain has this negative bias. And don't get me wrong, this sort of part of us, this what we call fight-flight response can be really helpful. So for example, if a car comes driving around the corner and is driving straight towards us, we don't really have to think about that. We just get out of the way, don't we? We just move. And that's our fight-flight response. It's designed to protect us. But when it's firing off in an unhelpful way, when it's not really needed, that's when it becomes a bit unhelpful. And that's what we're trying to address. So often what we might notice is that our body is here in the present moment, but our mind is somewhere else. It might be ruminating on the past or worrying about the future. And the future here, that's really where anxiety tends to live, is this future thinking. I really like this definition here by John Kabat-Zinn. He is the godfather of mindfulness in the Western world. Of course, this idea of mindfulness and present moment focus has been around for more than 2,000 years. You can find it in most of the world's religions and wisdom traditions in one shape or another. So his definition is mindfulness is the awareness that emerges through paying attention on purpose in the present moment and non-judgmentally to the unfolding of experience. So we're paying attention and we're doing it on purpose, in the present and non-judgmentally, because our mind will wander even when we sit down and say, yeah, I'm going to do 10 minutes of just focusing on my breath. There's not many people out there that can just do that straight with just focusing on their breath. Our mind does wander. So it's about being gentle with ourselves, having compassion for ourselves, and just coming back. And this is what we're teaching you in this program. So default mode is associated with mind wandering to past and future. Mindfulness is about paying attention to the here and now, which is really important when you think about it, because if your mind is somewhere else all the time, you actually miss out on the present, and therefore you miss out on your life. You could go for years not really engaging in what's happening in your life right now. Rumination is thinking about the same thing over and over. With mindfulness, we are experiencing life. With default mode, it's usually our mind is going to that judging, criticising and avoiding. With mindfulness, we're bringing a sense of curiosity to our experience, to our thoughts, to our feelings. We're being friendly with ourselves and our mind, and being open as well. So we're bringing that affectionate curiosity, a sense of non-judgment, moment to moment. Let's do a quick brainstorm. When do you think you are already mindful in your life? Yeah. When you're with friends, you're very in the present? Yeah, cool. Yeah.
When I'm playing my sports.
Playing sports? Which sport in particular? Figure skating. Whoa. I imagine you have to be really in the present to do that. Well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. What's figure skating? You're actually skating in a formation, is that?
Yeah, spinning.
Oh. Okay. Wow. Yeah. Because if you're not present, what happens?
You either hurt someone else or yourself.
Yeah. Any other examples where you might already be mindful? Yeah?
When you are taking a test in class.
Oh, that's good. When you're taking a test in class, that's great. Yeah.
Maybe when eating good food at a restaurant.
Oh yeah, tasting some nice food. Dating?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. It'd be a better date, wouldn't it, if you were in the present moment? Yeah? Playing games? Cooking?
I found that whenever you're learning something new.
Yeah. So learning something new? Yeah, excellent. Fantastic. So there already are times in our lives when we are mindful. That's great. That's a good thing. And so we need to acknowledge that. We're not always somewhere else. And when you think about all the things you just mentioned, there will be an element of one of these, or one or more of these. So using our senses. You heard that term, coming to your senses. And that's one thing that we'll be teaching early on in the program, is connecting with some of the things that we can connect with in a sense of sensing. So things we can taste. What can we see? What can we feel? Feeling our feet on the ground. We learn something, it might sound a bit ridiculous now, but we do some mindful walking, just learning to feel our feet on the ground, notice what we can see, what we can smell, what we can hear. That's one of my favourite things, is just basic sounds, just noticing sounds. And whilst that might sound a bit silly, all of these things are gateways to the present moment. They're ways to bring us back from that default mode back into what's happening now. So it's not something that you need to study for years and years and meditate for hours and hours to get right. It's something you can start right now, today. In fact, we will be having a little taster very shortly. So we'll be practicing in the program some formal mindfulness exercises, so formal mindful meditations, where we'll be sitting for 5 minutes, a few minutes, maybe 10 minutes. And that's what we call formal mindfulness. But we'll be teaching you how to take that into your everyday life people are waving at me. We'll be teaching you how to engage in informal mindfulness so that you can, no matter what you're doing, like doing a test or going on a date or figure skating, you can bring that sense of mindfulness to whatever you're doing. Now, I've got some really, really good news for you, and that is that this is all science-based. Okay, this is all backed in science. It might sound a little bit woohoo, but I can assure you it's all evidence-based. And the great news is that the more you practice being in the present, it actually builds these new neural pathways in your brain that make it easier for you to focus and concentrate. So you can actually change your brain. How cool is that? It gets me very excited, the fact that we can all change the way our brains work. I'm sure most of you have probably heard about neuroplasticity and the fact that this new science, it's been around for a while, but exciting that we can change our brains and train our brains. So research shows that regular meditators and practices of mindfulness can help with regulating our emotions, and we talk about that in the program as well. It's very normal to have these big feelings and big physical emotions from time to time. How do we work with those? How do we train our attention and our memory? How do we learn to take a different perspective? As Shakespeare said, there's nothing that's good or bad, it's only our perception. that makes things good or bad. And then we wrap the program up at the end with learning about compassion, which sounds maybe a bit airy-fairy, but again, there's a lot of science around the idea of self-compassion and how important that is. Because with this default brain, we can be our own worst enemy. Let's do a short practice, shall we? Now, you're very welcome to not do this, totally fine. I'm just going to guide you through a 5-minute exercise here, and we're just going to focus on our breath. So what I welcome or invite you to do, no problem, is sit in a comfortable position where you can be fairly... You might want to sit on the edge because these chairs are quite deep. Have a nice sort of comfy position, and you can close your eyes or keep your eyes open, totally up to you. I'll close my eyes, and if you do close your eyes and you feel a bit uncomfortable during the practice, just open them up and push your feet into the ground. So firstly, just noticing your feet on the ground, noticing where this chair is supporting you. Just noticing the fact that we are being supported not only by a chair, but the entire planet, the entire Earth is providing us with a sense of stability. Just noticing what you can hear. See if you can notice how many different sounds you can hear.